So I want to talk about what I learned from time traveling the other week. And yeah, I'll explain what that means. So, about a week and a half ago, I flew from New York City to LA, drove a couple hours north, and volunteered as a camp counselor at a youth leadership camp for high schoolers. It was organized by an international nonprofit organization called the Rotary Club, who pulled together a bunch of volunteers who, for a weekend, donated their time and efforts to help facilitate what was sort of a hybrid summer camp plus leadership seminar situation. It had the typical camp activities like 230 kids running around a campground, sleeping in cabins, on bunk beds. Yeah, I slept in one too. Everyone split up in color teams, team chants, competitions, talent show, dance. So a combination of all those typical camp things with a focus on leadership and communication and team building and leadership styles and values and ethics. And I volunteered as counselor. It took all of about 30 seconds for my friend to, convince me to join. She mentioned that it was a camp for high schoolers in Ojai, California, focused on leadership. And I said, I'm in. And while there, it gave me such a fascinating perspective that I haven't had in such a long time because I'm not around young people all that often, hardly ever. And with the benefit of 15 years of time and distance from that point in those kids' lives, it shed a light both on the experience at that age, but more importantly for me, and what I haven't stopped thinking about since I got back, was where I'm at in my own life. And that's what I'm here processing. And that's what I wanted to share with you. And frankly, as a reminder to myself too. So what does that mean? And I say it felt like time travel because it both put me back in this environment that I remembered so distinctly being there in that context around 230 some odd high schoolers, mostly sophomores and juniors. And I remembered viscerally what it was like to be in a situation like that. And to boot, it was a situation for those high schoolers that was outside of a comfort zone. Nobody knew each other. And so I could remember what it felt like to be a sophomore, a junior in high school in this exciting, but also terrifying situation of being in a new place with new people, both your own age, but then being surrounded by 30 or 40 adults, real adults that you didn't know either. They weren't your teachers. They weren't your parents. They were total strangers. And I remember those moments of just full body freeze and like what felt like this pull and this tug of the deep, deep desire to lean in and have the courage and to try to put my full self into the situation, to put my name on the list for the talent show and get out there on stage and do whatever I wanted to do, belt out a song or do some sort of dance, be a goofball and have some fun and just play a little bit and laugh a little bit. But also the tug the other direction of that deep fear and insecurity and shame, frankly, of I can't do that. I'm not good enough for that. And what will happen if? So as a 28, soon to be 29-year-old in that environment, it was so clear to me watching these kids how beautiful and expansive and rewarding an experience it would be to the extent that they were able to truly lean in and put themselves out there, put themselves on the line. Because from this point in time, when we think what we're doing as adults is so important, and much of it is, so much of what they're doing is important to them. And so this dynamic of being removed in so many ways from their situation and looking back with the benefit of time and seeing how low stakes, how disproportionately rewarding it would be to face those fears and to run headfirst into those opportunities that pulled at someone that they were invited to engage in, and how low risk, how low cost it would be to fail. And it was incredibly inspiring to see an environment, which I found incredibly rare, where the applause from their peers wasn't for some sort of outcome. It was for the attempt itself. In fact, it was this crazy, almost like, it was this crazy wonderland of an environment where the applause actually was often louder for the people that stood up, tried something, whether it was throw out an idea for the green team chant or go up there and try to play this song in the piano that they haven't played in 5 years. It was so often the case that the applause was louder for the ones that tried and failed than the ones that got up and did something that was within their comfort zone, within their skill level, that they walked up and whether they were nervous or not, executed and walked away. And I thought that was I found it such an inspiring type of environment, because that was exactly how I felt as a counselor, as one of the adults in the room. That's what I wanted for them. I wanted these kids to lean in and to put themselves out there and to do what scared them, even if, and maybe even especially if, they failed, because it was through those experiences on the edge that they were going to grow. That was clear to me. Okay, fine. But what's stuck with me since, beyond the beauty of that type of environment, were not only the counselors and the people like me that were volunteering to make this thing go off, but it was the beauty of how their peers adopted that sort of environment and approach as well. So beauty. But what I think the wisdom that I'm hopefully pulling from this, and the reason I'm sitting here talking about it, is it's an intention of mine to live more in this way. Because the realization that I had while sitting there was, just like I'm 15 years older than these high schoolers looking back at this specific situation with this sort of perspective and grounding, the disproportionate reward that sits on the other side of these kids really leaning in to what to them were massive fears and real fears. Just as I had that perspective 15 years on, I realized that there's someone that's 15, 20, 30 years older than me that's looking at me as a 28, 29-year-old thinking exactly the same thing. Someone that has lived more life with more joy, more pain, more everything, that is saying the exact same thing about where I am at this moment. And it so often happens for me that some of the cliches don't really land until some other random experience really cements them for me. So of course, it brings to mind that sort of heuristic. What would you at 80 say to yourself right now? What would you in 20 years want yourself to do? But that never really landed for me. Like it just felt simple. It felt true. It felt like a platitude. But sitting here in that, sitting in Ojai among hundreds of high schoolers, it was as if I was that person 15, 20, 25 years on. And that really brought it all home for me. So while I was excited to go to this camp and to lean in, frankly, to the edge of my comfort zone, where I was put in charge, where I was working to facilitate some of the games and the play and toss out ideas for team chants and play music and dance and try to get the energy moving and break down these barriers for these kids. It was an environment where I pulled out just as much, if not more, from the experience than the kids did. And I want to honor that time and acknowledge the gratitude that I have for those kids and what they showed me, and what they showed me, not just about leadership and about risk and about new environments and about putting yourself out there and about leaning in, but about myself and where I might not be leaning in. It was a weekend that was an absolute blast. It pulled out this sense of levity and play in me that I've been wanting more of, and that I hope to bring out more in the future. But beyond that, I'm so incredibly grateful to have had the opportunity to be in that sort of environment. Yes, hopefully I contributed, and I did feel, a sense of fulfillment and purpose and importance in the service aspect of me being there, volunteering my time, and hopefully contributing in some way to these kids' process of their own version of seeking and becoming. But at the same time, I'm finding that its impact on me may be just as profound as it was on the kids. And hopefully, in addition to what impact, if any, I could add to these kids' experiences, I'm just left reflecting on the beauty of the dynamics in that environment, cheering for each other's process, which is so much of what matters to me and what I'm about in my work here with Kama, but also the ability to time travel and to see both a phase in my own life with a different set of eyes, and to see the phase that I'm currently in with a different set of eyes. And also beyond gaining the perspective and hopefully contributing just a little bit to these kids' journeys, the experience was also just straight up inspiring. Some of these kids are absolutely astounding, especially because I'm so removed from them. My life is one of adults, amongst adults, with adults, for adults. But the pure energy and drive and curiosity and desire for goodness and for growth that I saw in many of these kids was just simply inspiring to me, to see a human being, forget the age, so eagerly engaged in their own life and their own process, which is what I seek to be and to do. To be able to witness that in an environment that is made for that. I mean, again, like I said at the start, that is just simply my jam. And it's what I hope to do here with Kama. And it's why I wanted to share the story and this experience, to honor the time, the relationships I made there, and to honor with gratitude the perspective that I gained from them and what that environment and those kids taught me. And also to serve as a reminder and an intention to take those with me. So part of what I want this to serve as is an opportunity to honor that space and that time and celebrate that sort of environment and the kids that were leaning so deeply into their own opportunity and their life and the lives of others, but also to serve as a moment of gratitude and a reminder and an invitation to me and to you to take what these kids showed me and what this environment showed me, this gift that came on the other side of this opportunity for time travel, to be grateful for that perspective and to commit to walking with that in mind and to live more leaned in, to live more leaned in to my life, and to use that perspective as a tool and as help to do so. I felt honored to be able to be there, to be able to learn from them. And I wanted to make something of that experience. It was a really special weekend for me. I hope to be doing it again next year if I can. And I'll leave myself and you with this. And it's simply a reminder to lean in, that just like when we look at someone younger than us or in a situation that we've already been in, we want them to just take life by the horns and do it and lean in and face the fear and jump into what you know is right and what you know you want to be doing. Just as I have that perspective with people younger than me or in different situations, there's someone that has that perspective for the situation that I'm in my own life. And frankly, now it's a perspective that I have for myself in my own life. And so here's my reminder to me and to you to lean in.